On this episode of the Carolina Sports Guy, we're breaking down this 53-man roster, folks. What it means, and what it doesn't mean. Before we get into today's content, make sure you subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. Hit that bell notification to be notified of future videos like these on the Carolina Panthers, Charlotte Hornets, Carolina Hurricanes, major sports in both North and South Carolina. Pound that like button, and by all means, folks, subscribe. I love the dialogue. All right, folks, it's official. We've gotten down to, I guess, 54 guys. You could say 53 because we're putting one on a suspended list for 2 weeks. Let's dive into it. Quarterbacks, we keep in two. Sam Darnold is the man for right now. P.J. Walker's number two. And in my opinion, I hope we don't need to use him, but it's number two in case something does happen to Darnold behind this line. We'll get into another video and we'll see if Greer makes it to the practice squad. It'll be interesting. Kicker, Santoso. Now, he's going to be there for today and tomorrow. But as we approach Wednesday or Thursday or whatever day we get to add these players to the practice squad, would not be surprised. This a Verity kid from East Carolina, I believe it was from Baltimore. I would not be shocked to see him picked by the Panthers. I'd love to have him. But I understood the Detroit Lions cut both their kickers and don't have one on the roster. And since they drafted before us, they get first crack. And I guarantee you, our luck, that's what they do. And just like with Panay Sewell, they're going to come in and take Verity. We'll see. And he wasn't the only kicker that got cut. So if I'm Santos, I don't get comfortable, because I got an 80% chance he's not going to be the kicker on opening day. Running backs. This is interesting, folks, because keeping 2.5. Yeah, 2.5. CMC is definitely on there. And Chuba Hubbard, no doubt. Number 3 is Trenton Cannon. I had talked about it and caught it early on, folks, because I thought Cannon would keep forward. I thought he'd be one of them. Mainly for special teams, returning punts, kicks, slide. He's like a Swiss Army knife. Wasn't the best running back of the other guys that we had, but because he can do a little bit of everything to play special teams, he was chosen. We'll see how that goes. And we also look down, I think, Spencer Brown being waived if he doesn't get picked up. We'll definitely put him on the practice squad. I could also see Rodney Smith, who was the last guy that was taken off, and he's had some injuries and nicked up. I think he could be on the practice squad. And Bonifan's injured, but I could definitely see where we can bring him back as a third back on the practice squad. Although I caught it earlier, between Bonifan and Rodney Smith, one of them I don't think will be brought back. I think it'll just be one, but I do think Spencer Brown will make the practice squad. Wide receivers. Of course, we know Robbie Anderson's going to make it. We knew J.J. Moore's going to make it, and Terrace Marshall Jr. David Moore makes it, returning some kicks. I wasn't as impressed with him. Shi Smith is probably going to go on an injured reserve, or we're just going to kind of park him. And I heard he's going to be out short term, so we had to put him on the roster before we can do anything else, this 53-man roster. And that's a no-brainer. We had to do that. But what killed me is Zylstra. Zylstra did not look good, and I thought his job was in jeopardy. Keith Kirkwood got cut, and I think that injury, that concussion kind of played a role. If this guy can be placed on the practice squad, he will. I'll say the same thing about C.J. Saunders. I think if no one picks him up, it's definitely a great candidate I see to put on the practice squad. Give him a chance. Wouldn't even be surprised to see Omar Bayless make it on the practice squad. And maybe that's why we didn't play him as much. I just think he's too valuable, even though he didn't show out in camp. But there's one guy I think that another team will snatch off our practice squad, especially a team like Detroit that's wide receiver needy. I think Omar Bayless would go and look good there. But we'll have to keep an eye on him, because right now I have him on our practice squad. It's either going to another team or it's practice squad for him. All right. Long snapper, J.J. Jansen, no doubt. And it's a smart move. And in the reserve was Thomas Fletcher. Thank God. Because if we'd have cut this guy, that Trey Smith pick we didn't make would have been thrown right in our face. And if we would have kept Thomas Fletcher's our long snapper and Cut Jansen. He'd have found a home. And I don't know if I like a rookie long snapper with us bringing in a new kicker. Don't forget, we also have Troy Pratt Jr. as a corner that's on the IR as well. So that's another story for another day. Offensive line. I thought we'd keep 10, kept 9. Deontay Brown, Brady Christensen, Cam Irving, Dennis Daly, Pat Elfline. I guess he's our backup center too. John Miller, Matt Paradis, and his center is just sucking very well. Trent Scott and Taylor Moton. Wouldn't be surprised here, folks, if we end up finding another guy, putting him on a 53-man roster when the cuts come out. I think we need one more good guy, and I think we can find one. I definitely think that's something. That's why I don't get too comfortable with all these tight ends on this roster I'm getting ready to go over. And I do think Sam Tecklenburg will find his way on the practice squad. I thought he'd make the roster, but not going to be disappointed if we develop a guy and put him on the practice squad. Now, tight ends. This is where I'm going to scream at the camera. What the hell are you thinking about, Matt Rule, Federer? What the hell are you thinking about? I'm going to one time now. I took up for you and think the world of you and everything else. I've been on your bandwagon. I believe in you after suffering with Ron Rivera. 5 freaking tight ends. We knew Tommy Tremble was going to make it. And we knew that, Dan Arnold. And I figured Ian Thomas, I knew some people want to get rid of him, and it's more like for the money. Caught a nice pass the other night in preseason. Give him another shot. And he could be one of the guys cut if we bring in, say, a backup linebacker off of somebody else's roster, or an offensive tackle or guard. It could. Colin Thompson, I thought if Ian Thomas was cut, Thompson would be the one. And keeping those 4 don't really bother me because we really needed tight end help. We didn't get it last year. But Giovanni Risi, even if you call him a fullback, we don't need it. That's what Tommy Tremble was for. I don't get the need for Risi. Does anybody love this guy? I think he should stay on the roster. I'd rather have Ian Thomas than him. I'd rather have Colin Thompson than him. Dan Arnold, Tommy Tremble, but Giovanni Risi, really? We kept this guy as a fullback? I didn't see anything impressive at all we were running with him at fullback. Is he really taking the lunch pail down on special teams and making ghost tackles? Maybe that's the guy that's cut if we bring in a linebacker or offensive lineman or who knows. Anyway, defensive line, this is where we're stacked, folks. I thought we'd keep 10, and we're keeping 10. Derek Brown, of course, Brian Burns, Morgan Fox, Yator Gross-Matos, Marquise Haynes, Daquan Jones, Davion Nixon. I knew Bravion Roy would be there. I thought Phil Hoskins would get cut and we put him on the practice squad. And he did play good during preseason, folks. And if he stays on this roster and I think he's going to be the guy on game day that's going to get inactive. He won't be on the 46 starting roster. He'll be on the 53-man, but he will be undressed. But that's my opinion. But, man, he gives us depth, and you never know if one of these defensive linemen get hurt. We can elevate him to the 46 game day. And he's played well, so you got to give Fitterer credit there for that 7th-round pick. Only pick I really have a problem with, folks, was the 6th-rounder in Fletcher. But anyway, those guys will stick and play. Linebacker, Jermaine Carter in the middle. Hassan Reddick on the outside with Shaq Thompson. Bringing Frankie Lulu in, special teamer as well. And I like Julian Stanford's game. At first I didn't. His last couple of weeks he's grown on me, and especially this week. I think he's going to be fine. 6 linebackers we're keeping. I could see us bringing one more in. And, of course, I had a good feeling that Clay Johnston was going to be in the mix, and I don't have a problem with that, playing in the middle. I think we could use one more middle backer, but Luke Kuechly, where are you? We're calling. Okay, let's look at the corners. Now, we knew that A.J. Bouye was going to be out for 2 games, and we've got 4 corners other than him. J.C. Horn, Dante Jackson, they're not going anywhere. I thought Keith Taylor was going to be fine there, and Stanley Thomas Oliver. So I'd hate to see any of them go over Bouye, but it could be Thomas Oliver or probably maybe one of these freaking tight ends in 2 weeks. Maybe that's why we're all on Ricci. Pulled the, rug out from under him when we need to bring Bouye back, because the 5 corners make sense. We we released with Sean Melvin. I hated to do it, but I really think the youth played a role here, and I'm glad we did. I just think we're better served in that route. Safety. Mercer's got a little bit of injury, but he made it. We got Sheehan, definitely made it. Sam Franklin, he has exploded. Looks good. And then keeping Hartsfield, which surprised me, but I'm glad we did, and Chandler. My big fear is if we bring in a guard or a tackle or a linebacker, if it isn't one of these tight ends to go, which I hope it is, I'm afraid he'll take one of these safeties off, or if A.J. Bouye comes back. I don't want Hartsfield. I don't even want Chandler. I don't want either one of them to go and get cut and get back. Now, the thing that killed me is that Robinson, the safety, is nicked up and injured, was waived. Kenny Robinson. And I thought he played well. But I guess early on in camp he didn't. I definitely think he is somebody, though, they're going to bring in and put on the practice squad if nobody picks him up. I feel strong about it. I don't have a problem with that. I really thought he was going to be the one. It was going to be Hartsfield or Chandler that didn't. But I give the coaches a nod on this if they feel that Robinson needed to go. Now, Christian Miller, I told you he'd get cut. And I'd see somebody like Washington picking him up and putting him on their 53-man roster. Now, if nobody wants to do this, I definitely think it's a no-brainer bringing him back, putting him on the practice squad, let him develop and go and see what we got. But it wouldn't shock me if we didn't. So we're going to have to go from there. Also looking at another linebacker was Fisher, Patty Fisher. He was released really early. I don't think anybody's going to pick him up out with 16 men. I don't have a problem putting Patty Fisher on the practice squad, but he did get cut early. Josh Bynes didn't make it. He was released, so he's definitely gone. So, works in that direction. Now, looking at Charlton, the punter, he was going to be there, so that wasn't going to be an issue at all. But, folks, the issues I really have, keeping 5 freaking tight ends. 3 running backs. I don't get that unless you're going to stash a couple running backs on the practice squad. I told you we're deep at receiver. And we kept 6. I'm surprised Zylstra made it. But, man, I think Kirkwood, if we can, definitely Saunders because of his upside, now young. And we can keep Bayless if nobody poaches him. I have no problem with that. Offensive line other than Tecklenburg, I see us bringing somebody in. But, folks, Greer, can he go to the practice squad or not? It's going to be something to keep an eye on. Or we're going to bring another kicker in. So, I don't know what you guys think. I see a couple things tweaking. Don't get used to this initial roster. It's going to change. It's going to definitely change. We're going to bring a few people in and churn it. And we're going to release a few. And they're going to go a couple to the practice squad. And we're going to take a couple of these people in the practice squad, and they're going to get released. And you're going to get through the season part way, and they're going to be brought back. It's the cycle of life, folks. It happens. So what do you folks think? Who was your big surprise that was cut that you didn't see coming? Who do you think got a roster spot that doesn't deserve it? Richie. So, pound that like button. Hit that bell notification and be notified of future videos like these on the Panthers, Charlotte Hornets, Carolina Hurricanes, and major college sports in the Carolinas. And by all means, folks, subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. And leave some comments. I love the dialogue. And we'll see you next time on another edition of Carolina Sports Guy.